Wall jump, stomp, air boost, and lightspeed dash were all introduced into the boost formula with the release of Sonic Unleashed, and became like crack in the following games. If you didn't have them, you couldn't function. They saw various usage throughout Colors, Forces, Generations, and Frontiers, some of which use a bit more than others. Being unlocked through game progression in Unleashed, however, the game has you believe that you must pick up these shoe upgrades to proceed, but with it being recently proven that you do not need to be a crack addict to beat the main game, things become very interesting. As many of you know, Sonic Unleashed has far more content than just the main stage acts, with additional stages available in each continent after beating the main story stage, as well as a plethora of DLC stages available for purchase on the relevant storefronts, which gave players a lot more content to consume, as if the main game didn't already have the longest any % speedrun of any mainline title. Some of these stages say that Sonic requires these skills. But what if he didn't? Today, we're going to slightly revisit the 7th Circle of Hell that was the Trifecta Challenge and try and beat every day stage in the game without using any of Sonic's shoe upgrades found throughout the game. Death toll will be sky high, controllers at risk of major damage, and just to sweeten the deal, Sonic speed and ring energy stats will be at level 1 as well, for the true low % experience. Joining me on this journey is Joshua Salkeld, the GOAT of Unleashed speedrunning, and together we will end up with the most convoluted strategies to answer a question that no one is asking. Are we ready? Let's get to it. Now, if you wish to see the previous video, I highly recommend you do so before this. But if you don't mind, I'll quickly recap all the Act 1 stages that the main game covers, supposedly requiring the shoe upgrades to proceed. In Cool Edge, we use a small lip in the terrain in the hub world to do a jump higher than the invisible wall to enter the stage. We do a trick launch at the first stomp switch to skip the door, and then use the small hills round the second switch to jump out of bounds, and a little bit of M speed to skip the invisible wall. You can enter Rooftop Run using the lamppost to aim for the spring, and you'll be stopped by the invisible wall that's present before picking up wall jump. The stage itself only has one major wall jump to skip, but the first ones can be avoided by a ramp and a spring. When reaching the first major turn, we join the rail, M speed over the kill plane, and while maintaining M speed we swerve left, aiming to enter the tower that you normally skydive through after the wall jump. Dragon Road only runs into difficulty entering the stage without air boost. We go up the tower next to the wall jump, boost jump to the platform with the T, and then boost jump with an air dash to reach the stage. Arid Sands gives you lightspeed dash, but this is the least useful of any shoe upgrade. Destroy the turbine guys, then just jump to the rainbow ring to reach the stage. After the first checkpoint, this small lip on the archway can give enough height to skip the 2D trigger, but make sure you fall on the left of the path. Then you can jump around the loop, letting you bypass the whole wall jump section. You'll have all the skills by the time you're in Skyscraper Scamper, but they're no longer required to enter the stages. You'll need to take the normal path avoiding the lightspeed dash since the distance is too large to jump. When you reach the spring to go 2D, don't use it. Jump off to the right instead and aim for the intended path, as there isn't much collision there. When you reach the wall jump, there's collision below, so you can jump right to avoid a kill plane, and then air dash back on. Jungle Joyride has 2 major points for skipping. The first door requires a stomp, but many runners, even casually, have been skipping this door just by jumping as they come off the water, and use a little M speed to make the jump. At the end of the stage, you can skip the wall jump by using the idle on the fence to jump up behind you, and then jump either to the rail or M speed the full way. Then lastly, in Eggman Land, we avoid 2 wall jumps. One, by using the Ferris wheel to jump a huge distance which bypasses the first Werehog section and the 2D that comes after, and the second by doing a 3D and 2D jump after the second Werehog section, letting us walk in 3D around a 2D wall. The rest of the stage is normal. Other than those stages, Windmill Isle Act 1 and 2 and Savannah Citadel Act 1 are played before any shoe upgrades are available. You can see that the later stages require insane tech to be able to beat, so let's see what we can pull off for the other day stages. Windmill Isle 3 isn't hard to reach at all, and the stage itself is really easy. Our first fully 2D stage, and our easiest one so far. Only killing me because I got carried away with D-speed. Oh, I fell. Now, Act 1-2 is just inconvenient without Stomp, as you catch onto right away, and then the 2D part that's designed like a cyberspace stage. Ironic. Huh. Again, you'll just wish you had Stomp. The stage is an incredibly slow burner with the moving platform after the checkpoint. I'm weird about this stage. You start at the end, work your way back, do the weird bit in the sky, and then a weirdly remixed version of the first stage. Supposedly in Act 2-2, you need lightspeed dash and wall jump, but they're actually only necessary if you end up on the bottom path. Well, wall jump is. There's a totally required lightspeed dash in the 2D section at the middle and towards the end. I was acting like a god with the new powers who didn't know how to use them because what was that? No! An air dash is enough to close the gap that's intended for lightspeed dash, and then the rest of the stage is more of the same, just with a ton more spikes. And then Act 4 is Act 4, that infamous stage that resurfaces on social media every so often for being so difficult. I died like twice. It's no different tackling this without the show upgrades at all than if you did take them. It's not as bad as TikTok makes it out to be. Promise. I tried to tackle the generally easy stages first, so Act 2 in Missouri was next. This is the lap stage. It's so easy, just don't drift. Air dash to break your speed. and run around normally. Or be like Josh and just skip most of the laps. Act 3 was next, and it requires wall jump to get to. Just kidding, no it doesn't. There's a wall jump right at the beginning of the stage, but boost on the ramp and you avoid it entirely. The rest of the stage doesn't have any crazy tech required to beat it. Act 1-2 was good fun. You can clearly start with a nice bit of M speed and then D speed at the 2D part. But I did end up in a tiny bit of fear thinking wall jump was needed, but all that happened was I didn't boost. I overshot the second open desert part and somehow didn't make it into the final area, but even once I did make it, the rest of the stage was easy. Why is there so much DLC for Savannah Citadel?
Why is my steak so buttery and juicy? What is this? Whoa. That's what I'm hearing.
Act 3-2 did confuse me a lot, because of the million different branching paths as well as needing to get 300 rings and get to the gold ring in just 2 minutes. Again, added convenience through having the shoe upgrades, which we do not, but it didn't take away from a whole lot.
Oh, I almost saved it! Oh, I'm so stupid and ugly and no one loves me.
Then we are presented with our first impossible stage. Even if we could bypass the first wall jump, there's a stomp switch later on in the stage, so unfortunately Savannah Citadel Act 4 is unbeatable. Go on. Try it. Act 5 is that weird stage that takes place in the boss arena, and I learned the hard way that if you go too fast when you reach the spring, you can actually be locked into the automation when you reach the 2D section. Genuinely the strangest experience I've ever had in this game. I do think this stage is the absolute weirdest of the bunch. Just being in a boss arena with no boss is strange enough, but then the additional 2D parts add a weird charm to this level. Now, I'd talk about Rooftop Run in greater detail here, however Rooftop Run ended up being the hardest continent so far, because of how much time we spent here, or at least how much time I spent here because Josh beat the stage while I was failing repeatedly. We decided to come back to stages 1-2 and 2-2. However, Act 2 and Act 3 are not possible. You can't lap skip in Act 2 and there's no way to avoid the wall jump section at the end of lap 1. And then in Act 3, you simply cannot collect all the chow because, yet again, of a wall jump. There's a reoccurring theme with the impossible stages, in that when a stage is impossible, you can usually assume it's one of the 2D ones. Act 4 and 5 were awesome though. The lighting in Act 4 is great, it's mostly the hallway part at the end of Act 1, so even with those additional obstacles, it really isn't all that. And then Act 5 is literally just Final Horizon level design. Be careful of the dash ramps though, because you won't be able to air dash out of them. It's pretty handy to go on the left path, but switch to the right early on, and then switch to the bottom about midway. The lower path isn't dependent on your FPS to work properly. D-Speed made Dragon Road to Act 2 a piece of cake. There's some wall jump sections, but using D-Speed allows you to bypass them entirely. And then Act 3 is just 2-2 Frontiers. Not a difficult stage at all. 1-2 was a lot of effort, since it's literally Mario Maker meets Fall Guys in terms of level design. I would like to know what the devs were feeding on when making this stage because, like, what the fuck even is this? And everything was going great. Until it wasn't. There's a light speed dash required towards the end of the stage that is just too high to reach by jumping. I tried everything, going back to the firework to go a little higher, seeing if the flying enemies spawned higher, even just trying to M-speed over the gap normally. Nothing was resulting in absolutely any progress. It was like trying to fit the square object into the circular hole. Sure, it might work eventually, but this one just wouldn't fit. Even whipping out the over-reliable event planes, it just doesn't amount to anything. Shout out to everyone who put up with this colour shit though. Now for Dragon Road 2-2, you will kinda need to learn D-Speed. It's fairly easy to do, but for large chunks of the stage there are some breaks that need wall jump to pass. Using D-Speed to just fly over those parts removes that problem entirely. Now don't get me wrong, D-Speed is terrifying. I had no idea where I would land most of the time, but if it got me past wall jumps, I'm happy. A light speed dash would then lead to a pulley, which is apparently mandatory. Well, who decided that? And then that's basically the end. And if you thought that was horrific, well, fucking welcome to Act 4. Now there's a high possibility this has been theory crafted but never actually attempted before. The game explicitly says you need wall jump, but a very hopeful part of me doubted it, so it was time to start labbing. There's two different paths to take here. One takes you straight through some hoops and forces you into 2D, but the other path lands you at a checkpoint that's still 3D until you get close to the next path. You have to deliberately fail the last QuickTime event to land here. I thought basically going back and right to make the full jump would be the play, but you can't even go that way because, well, yay, a wall. But you can go left. It does force you into 2D. Roughly on the third wall, you'll be pushed back onto the path. What I managed to figure out was at that near center point, jump left round the trigger and attack the flying lad. But depth perception wins here. Repeating these steps again and again seemed like it was leading nowhere. But after persevering for a few more tries, I actually passed that part and reached the wall jump, just within reach of the end of the level. My problem is that I was without boost reaching here, so I needed to have some ready. I thought I'd need to drift a little in the previous area to store it for reaching that part, since there was little room to move. Well, it turns out I didn't. There is just enough space to gather some boost, and then this happened. So, I'll go over there, Oh my Jesus, right, okay, fuck. Holy shit, right, okay. Right, I have an idea, so we're gonna do this, pause buffer, we need to go this way, and... At the end, fail the quick time event since you can't lightspeed dash. Just let the platforming do the work at the end, and then we are almost done with Dragon Road. Just the 3D lap stage left. I died a few times, but the stage doesn't require the shoes at all. So I've been trying Rooftop Run 1-2 at times between continents, and I think I've finally got it. Add the first part, use M speed to pass over the archway and land out of bounds. Then, aiming for the fountain, go slightly right, boost slide jump into M speed, let Sonic clip off, and then you're at the big turn. But there's bombs blocking the rail. So what do? We say fuck that, damage boost through the bombs, and jump over half the stage again. Fuck you, Isaac Newton. I make my own rules for what's possible. There is no movable object in this equation. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. The first cool edge stage I wanted to take on was Act 2. Thankfully, none of the shoes are required to reach it, but the stage itself is generally pretty challenging, shoe upgrades or not. I did complete it first try, however the rest of the stages would not be nearly as forgiving. Act 4 isn't possible. You need air boost to close most of the gaps since the game just doesn't let you air dash out of a dash ramp. Even if it did, this stage has a stomp switch that triggers the goal ring to appear, which we cannot hit. You can literally take one of my kidneys if you prove me wrong on this one. Act 1 was only difficult because we couldn't take damage in that scenario, but our aim is just to do no shoes today, so you'd think Act 2 would be okay, right? My hopes were high until they weren't. A long 2D section and then a stomp just isn't possible either. Maybe we'll come back to this, but for now, let's move on. Act 2-2 was just difficult. You can see that the stage recommends that you have stomp and lightspeed dash, but it's more than possible without them. Act 3 was similar, though not requiring the crack addiction to beat, just very difficult generally speaking, with a time limit on a slippery stage. Man, I love this genre of stage. Time limit, tight turns, and a lubed up terrain. My favourite. First up in Arid Sands is Act 2, the QTE simulator, or in my case, the pause buffer simulator. Believe me, I wish I didn't need to do this, but my challenge runner pilled brain just makes me want to get everything perfectly. Maybe one day I'll move on, but it'll take years of therapy. Act 3 felt like a Sonic adventure stage, and it was actually a ton of fun. Very open, lots to explore, things to do, people to see, the whole fucking lot. However, at the end of my first attempt, I was losing my mind trying to find the last Chow and scrambling to finish in the little time I had left, which I didn't. I was starting to think this challenge would be impossible based on my own skill alone rather than the challenge rules. Did a full clean sweep on the stage again and got all the Chow nice and easily. Nothing compared to that one Team Chaotix mission at least. I'd talk about Act 1-2 in greater detail, but I will not lie. The strategy was bar for bar exactly the same as Act 1, except I couldn't spend any time pissing about because it has a 7-minute time limit, which I didn't notice at first. It also has a weird camera and just locks it forward facing, so you do the same inputs as before, just angled differently. However, on my first successful attempt, there was no chance on me finishing the stage in time. Not even pairing with the fact that I accidentally took the bottom route, which requires a wall jump to get out of. So upon restart, I figured out that if you fail the jump at the start about 4 times, you may as well reset the stage. Because it's a bit of a convoluted setup, takes a while to recover from if you get it wrong. Thankfully, after far too many attempts, we made it in reasonable time, and that gave me enough to work with for the remainder of the stage.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass.
Yeah, I hate it here. I hadn't played this stage in a good while, but still managed to get pancaked at the end. But then, my hopes were shattered. Just kidding, it's not a wall jump. Act 2 for Empire City was just kinda weird. Why they have these random girders up in the sky, I will never know, but quick stepping is all you need to know for this stage. It isn't hard. And Act 3 is about as normal as it gets. You know when there's obstacles and shit set up for like a Grand Prix in a city and you can't really go on those roads because any normal person might get hurt? That's what this is. Nothing difficult about it until the very end, which I was just insanely washed at. Act 1-2 changes the actual fabric of reality. I tried the regular 3D and 2D jump constantly and got absolutely nowhere with it. There was zero reason for this to not work. No reason, other than the fact that the devs just decided in this stage to change the rules and block off the 3D and 2D jump. However, there's no mandatory wall jump this time, so reaching past that part is easy as fuck since the top route is more free than JFK in his car. But the problem arises because you cannot break the flat glass panels without stomp, so I was stumped trying to get past here. Though, after a little theory crafting, moving on to day 3, we pulled this off. Let's go! The rest of the stage is basically the same as Act 1, a lightspeed dash on the shortcut that can be avoided by air dashing as you fall past the rings. So I learned that you can actually reach Act 2 and 3 of Adabat without the wall jump. You can use the terrain to just do a clean jump up. You can also just change to Werehog and climb up, but this is a day stage challenge, so where's the fun in that? I mean, ignoring the fact that you did have to swap to Werehog to reach Begonia Act 2, which was impossible anyway, so was Arabat Act 2. Literally a stage that Origins Rayman could beat if given the chance, and Sonic can't. Unleashed Sonic, nonetheless. Does this mean that Rayman is more powerful than Sonic? I don't think it matters. They'd be homies. Act 3. Right, Act 3 should be pretty straightforward, right?
Is that a pun? This man making a funny joke?
I didn't even think about that.
Is this guy a comedian?
Act 3 was far too easy a stage. A glorified version of the Act 1 opening made into a full stage. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but not exactly difficult. And unfortunately, that trend is going to continue. This is the final area, by the way. Wow, this is a boring fucking stage, holy shit.
No, someone worked really hard on that stage. No, be nice.
Act 4 has amazing level design. Combining that difficulty from the late Apatow stages and the aesthetic of the Arabat level design, it's probably my favourite of the Arabat levels. It's almost like level design from the Wii version. That game has good level design, and I will not be taking questions. Act 5 doesn't even have level design. It's literally just running on water until this tunnel near the end, avoiding the 3 robots, and that's it. Jungle Joyride's additional stages are not hard, and my point still stands. Because 1-2 should realistically have been the hardest level of the bunch. The start is more difficult, but what do you mean they've removed the 3 robots at the first jungle section? Then the level remains mostly the same, with a few additions here and there to make the stage a little more interesting, and then the fucking door is open? And this isn't even as goofy as it gets, because all they did for the 2D sections was just add more walls that crush you. We've got some Sonic Heroes ass level design here, and then believe it or not, the stomp switch and the wall jump? Gone. Reduced to atoms. Jungle Joyride 1-2 is an absolute wet fart of a stage, the most unsatisfying end I could have chosen to close off this challenge with. Except, we aren't quite done yet. Let's take a minute to go back and revisit 2-2 in Rooftop Run. While regular Act 2 is not possible due to being fully locked in 2D with no way to escape the wall jumping, Act 2-2 is very different, with a slight mixture of 3D and 2D. There's a skip you can do right at the beginning to go straight to the launchers, but you can't line up your landing properly without Stomp. Luckily, there isn't any shoe upgrades needed between the start and then. It's only used in IL speedrunning. Once you pass the launchers, a pulley will start leading you to a skydive, and this is the major part we must avoid, since it leads straight into 2D with no way to escape, and no way forward without wall jumping. After the first pulley, you're forced onto a balloon, and this is where we do a homing attack as soon as we can to avoid latching to the second pulley, as well as the trigger to the skydive. We want to land at the next checkpoint, so we're aiming for the platform on the left when the camera changes, but the right while we still have the perspective from the pulley. Once landing there, we are well ahead of where the game expects us to be, so we have to wait for the obstacles and such to load in. But we're very close to the end now, even if the camera is horrible here. When the obstacles load in, you can then use the springs to attack the robots with missiles to get a vantage point. From this point, you can either head straight to the end of the stage, or go back and touch the checkpoint, which is definitely worth doing. There's invisible walls and kill planes right next to the final area, and you can't just jump to the goal ring. No idea why they did this, since normal gameplay would make it impossible, but what gives? Destroying the first rocket robot and then boost jumping towards the springs puts you exactly where you need to be, which clears us of Rooftop Run 2-2. But we're still not quite done, as our first major problem in the last video becomes our last major problem in this video. Now, as you saw earlier, there's a stomp required at the first 2D part of Cool Edge 1-2, which you can't pass through normal means, so we're going to use a tech called Break Jump Glitch, making us go so fast that we will bypass that section before the wall is able to spawn in. I almost got it pretty early on, but not quite. If you go too fast, you can actually end up in ghost mode, where none of the triggers in the stage work anymore, interactables mostly fail, kill planes don't exist, and you're basically fucked. I did try using ghost mode to beat the stage, but break jump is a lot easier. Aim to the right wall on the water and use this specific angle on your input, and with the right timing, you can air dash to break the speed and be past the spike wall. Now, the rest of the stage is very similar to Act 1. You'll use the same trick, but the ice geysers will make it a lot more difficult. It's still possible, but not nearly as easy as without them. Basically, let yourself get frozen and act on the jump while your iframes are still active, but you won't quick step into position correctly, so you need to do a full manual setup. The last stomp button is avoided the same way as in Act 1. I ran out of lives after reaching this point and threw in the towel, but Josh came in clutch and beat the stage using all the tricks I just covered. At least we both proved the stage is possible without the use of stomp or wall jump. Come to think of it, why would you need wall jump for that stage? Oh, because it's in the 2D part. So, can you beat every day stage without using any shoe upgrades in Unleashed? Not quite. You can beat most of them, but some are impossible for stupid reasons. We couldn't do Savannah Citadel 4, Cool Edge 4, Rooftop Run 2 or 3, Dragon Road 1-2, or Jungle Joyride 2. Even with those stages being unbeatable, I'd still say we made solid progress and can say the challenge was mostly a success. This video took an incredibly long time to make, so any and all support is much appreciated. Leave a like if you enjoyed, drop a comment down below if you want, and subscribe to both myself and to Josh for the help on this one, as I don't think I would have made as much progress as this without his help. Feel free to follow me on Twitch, where I stream challenges like this one, and join my Discord for community updates. Also follow Josh on Twitch too for an endless amount of Unleashed speedrunning content. Big shout out to hweilla and Makon for the thumbnail, and that's all for now. My name is Snack, and I'll see you in the next one.
I think I'm holding it. Just a bit more. Only if you think you can handle it. So all I gotta do is finish with no damage? Now that's one big burly beast. Ugh, that's the last thing in the world I'd want to touch. How's this different from ordinary slime?